An altar is a table. Who knew that? Did anybody else know that? And I'm assuming no, because nobody's jumping in and saying yes. In my mind, that is not what I have been taught an altar is. And that is not the vision. Like, that's not the illustration of an altar that comes to my head. So I went to the scripture to find scriptures that describe altars. And when they describe an altar, they don't necessarily call it a table, but they give the dimensions of the altar that was built. And when you look at the dimensions of the altar, it is the dimensions of a table. And that really changed how I view an altar. Because what do you do at a table? You set the table, you commune at the table, right? It's much different than I think what we think of the altar being, where you go like to the platform at the church and you're on the floor and you kneel down, right? And it's low. You prepare the table. You put all your, like all the things that we say about tables, lay all your cards on the table. Imagine doing that to God. Just put just everything that you have, everything that you are, right? All your flaws, all the empty spaces, all the broken areas. We talk about that when we talk about the you and poor, which is unbroken. Just put your cards on the table, on the altar. And so when we think about taking our sacrifice to the altar, y'all, this was plaguing me. And for a second, I didn't like it. For a second, I didn't like it because I said, okay, I bring my sacrifice to the table. And in the Bible, we see people kneeling, right? We hear people kneeling at the altar. And so I'm thinking, when I kneel down to the altar, this thing that I have now sacrificed and laid on this table is now higher than me. And I had a conversation with God where I was like, I don't like the illustration of that. I like the illustration of the altar where I lay the thing on the altar and then I bend over it, because then that makes me feel like I'm higher than the thing. But hear me. If we go with the illustration of we lay our sacrifice on the table and then I kneel down at the altar for this encounter that I have with God. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't like that, because that now places this thing that I need to sacrifice above me. But guess what? The truth of the matter is the things that we need to sacrifice, they are bigger than us. They are stronger than us, right? We can't let them go on our own, right? And so when I lay it down and I hover over it, I'm keeping it, right? I'm staying close to it. I'm not moving myself out of the way and giving God an opportunity to now take that thing and remove it. But the illustration of the table, where I now place this sacrifice on the table, I kneel down, and this thing now becomes between me and God. This is now a sign of surrender because I'm giving this thing to God. It is now not, it's not the thing and then me and then God. It is me and then the thing and then God, because I'm giving it to him and he's going to reach down and he's going to take it. And so many times when we take a sacrifice to the altar, we lean over it. And then when we get up, we take it back because we still have access to it. But when it's on a table, you put that thing on the table and you walk away from it and you leave it there. You give God an opportunity to actually reach down and take it. You're not in his way. This is what it means to actually sacrifice, to surrender something up to a God that is higher than that thing that has been really difficult for you to let go, that has been really hard for you to go, that feels bigger than you. And whether we want to own up and admit to it or not, that thing that we struggle with certainly is bigger than us. We can't do it on our own. But the sovereignty of God that is illustrated when we think of an altar as a table where we put our sacrifice and surrender it to him and then kneel down, this thing now sits between me and God, the only person who can remove it. It is the act of giving it to him. It is us literally casting our cares to him because he said he cares. The other thing, when we see back in the Bible, like Noah, when he takes his sacrifices, this animal that they've killed, right? They smeared the blood on the horn. God's response is that it is a sweet smelling savor. And I cannot imagine that a dead animal smells good, right? This thing that I am dealing with that I need to sacrifice to him, whether it's social media, whether it's alcohol, whether it's, pornography, whether it's lust, whether it's whatever it is, right? Whether it's overeating, right? Not taking care of my temple, disobedience, ignoring the Sabbath, anything, right? Whatever this thing is, like, I know it stinks. It smells terrible. But there's something about that odor that is now removed and changed to something sweet when I lay it on the table and give it to God. Y'all, and that is how we become unbroken. Because now this thing that was ugly and disgusting and bloody and dead, God sees it as sweet. It's perfume to him. It smells good. Simply because of the exchange that happens on the altar. When we keep it, when we hover over it, when we don't give it to him, it stinks. That thing reeks. It reeks. It smells. It's disgusting. Y'all, take your sacrifice to the table. An altar is a table.